Ellen.
Well, hello, Trevor.
We're doing something a little bit different today.
We are. I was in the garden.
Yes, as we often find you in the garden.
Correct.
This is not new news.
And it's a really fun time because the garlic scapes are popping.
Ah, 'tis scape season.
It is. And as I was making literally an armful of scape bracelets,
Yes.
as I was collecting them.
I saw that. Yes.
I did not have a basket with me.
We're not always together. And so sometimes I see the things that you do.
But that I post on the Insta.
On our own Instagram.
At Stonebrook House, yeah.
So I I got an alert and it said, look at your phone again. And I said, okay, I'll just do it this one time because I don't usually go on my phone at all. And there you were with a Madonna-esque scenario
that
of
dates us.
Scapes.
Yes. Well, as soon as I saw them, I had to start collecting them. So of course I didn't have a basket, and I thought, well,
it was like an immediate scape collection.
I'm gonna rock this garlic scape bracelet because I could have easily walked back to the
own it
to the potting bench and gotten the basket.
Own the bracelets.
But anyway, I loved it. It was fun.
It is fun.
But I realized we released an episode on garlic.
Yes, we did.
In our first season.
We did.
That was in the fall. So sort of.
It was late, way later.
Which helped for future planning.
That's true. But also we had a lot to say.
We did.
There was a lot happening in the beginning.
So I think it would be a good idea to share it with everybody again now.
Sort of in situ, as it were, since this is the time.
It is the season.
And I think this way, if you listen to our episode from season 1, you can get all of the tips, and hopefully you planted your garlic. And so you're at the point where you have those scapes right now.
And I think we had a recipe in there.
We had lots of recipes. We'd say scape salt. We had all sorts of stuff that we want you guys to all be able to listen to right now since it's in the season, and then you can enjoy and get ready for all the loveliness that is still only a very short period of time away when it comes to actual garlic harvesting.
Yes, that'll be in July. And here's the thing too.
But you'll be ready for that.
You'll be ready. And if you aren't growing garlic, no worries. All of your local farmers markets are soon going to be full.
Inundated.
With scapes
that
you can buy and try and make some recipes too. So we think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and we'll be back next week with another episode, a brand new episode of Yard to Table.
But for now,
I felt like this was a good time.
So for now, enjoy Growing the Stinking Rose Garlic from season 1 of Yard to Table.
Well, hi there, Ellen.
Well, hello there, Trevor.
Here we are, another fantastic episode of Yard to Table.
Exciting.
It's super exciting.
I say that a lot, don't I?
You do say exciting a lot, but things are exciting. I mean, I think that's one of the cool things. It's something new in the garden, in the yard every single day.
Yes, and being able to do this and talk about it and obviously share our enthusiasm about it.
There's a lot of it.
There's a lot of it is really incredibly cool.
It's not always good out there. It's always exciting.
But you know what? It's good on here. On this podcast.
That's true. It is always good. It is always good. Welcome to Yard to Table, the podcast where we talk about food, we talk about entertaining, we talk about recipes, we talk about growing everything in our yard, which is all centered around our 11-acre Connecticut homestead called Stonebrook.
That's right. And my name is Ellen Crafts.
And I am Trevor Crafts.
And welcome, everybody.
Here we are talking today.
What are we talking about, Trevor?
The stinking rose.
Wait, let me guess. That's garlic.
Wrong. No, you're right. It is garlic. It is garlic. I didn't even know where. I've heard that there's a restaurant called The Stinking Rose.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've always known that it was called The Stinking Rose.
Is that a Shakespearean term?
I thought it was too. I 100% thought it was too. But it's not.
Tell me more.
It was actually a French writer
fries.
And physician named Henri Leclerc.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
So to our listeners, Trevor has an incredible ability to do accents. You can leave in the comments whether you want to hear more.
Which I'm sure everybody will automatically. I'm sure listeners, you do like accents. We all know that. So Henri Leclerc, he translated the Greek for the name. This is the accent, by the way. This is the French accent.
Yeah, can we just skip that part?
Okay, fine. So he translated it and came up with the Stinking Rose. So
that's fascinating. I mean, was it because it looked like a rose? Because it doesn't.
So it's all from the Greek skoradon.
Yes.
And that translates down through French into the English, stinking rose.
Amazing. Language is fascinating.
So my accent game is strong. I think we can all agree on that.
No encouragement necessary.
What's not so strong is my understanding about ancient civilization. So I did have to look this up because we were talking about garlic today.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to know how long, we've been eating garlic, not you and I, but just us as humans.
It has to be
7,000 years. It's a long time.
That's a long time. And I think this always goes back to a conversation you and I have a lot. What drove the first person to try garlic?
It's amazing because it's in its raw form.
Hunger, desperation.
I think that's it.
Watching animals not die.
Watching not death is always it's always a plus.
Oh, okay, that's safe. I'll try that. Yeah.
Where all of our food comes from and how long we've been eating these things that we grow in our yards.
It's amazing.
Is actually fascinating to know how much time and energy has been spent cultivating all of these different fruits and vegetables and things that we grow. It's not just, it's not just a week.
Well, right. And then how many different varieties there are. I mean, there is a lot.
Of just garlic?
Oh yeah.
Garlic. It's 38. And it's basically,
you have really been doing your research.
This is what we do.
I know.
This is our thing.
Very impressed. Keep
We've
going.
got 2 different kinds. Generally, there's 2 different kinds for everybody out. If you know this already, more experienced gardeners are going to know this, but if you're just starting with your yard and what you can put into your yard, essentially you've got 2 different types. There's soft neck. That means that they don't produce a stalk. There's no garlic flower there. And that's the stuff that usually you're going to see in grocery stores, and that's all the varieties.
There's a lot
that
of braiding of the stems.
I think that's the braiding
That's the one that you braid.
Yeah,
yes. I know this because we grow
hardneck garlic.
That's right.
Yeah, we grow hardneck. I mean, soft neck's got all sorts of different. Black garlic is a soft. French red is a soft neck garlic. Elephant garlic actually isn't garlic.
Stop. What is it?
It is actually it's an onion.
Oh, wow.
So now we grow hardneck garlic. That's what we've been putting into the yard. I think there's a big taste difference between hardneck and soft.
And once you've had it, regardless of what variety you are trying, it also tastes completely different when you grow it in your own garden.
Our hardneck has these 6 big bulbs that, garlic bits that we get, and it's super fragrant. It's actually pretty easy to peel too. I think it's much easier to peel. Hardneck's much easier to peel than soft, I would say.
Yeah. And when you get it right out of the ground, it has a little casing around the bulb that's very easy to take off. We'll talk a little bit about that whole growing and ripening schedule. But, when it's ready, your basil's popping in the garden at the same time. So it is just a natural.
It smells fantastic.
Scoop up some of that basil, get that garlic, and make yourself some pesto. And it is incredibly flavorful with the fresh garlic and the fresh basil.
For us, we're growing the German hardneck variety.
Right. Yes. Well, as we should, because, it aligns to my ancestry and our collective temperament.
That's true. I think it's like, you always think, I'm going to go get some garlic, but there's so many, like I said, 38 different kinds. There's so many different kinds of garlic. There's Transylvanian garlic, which seems totally.
Well, I was gonna say, is there a question about which kind of garlic works for vampire repelling?
That would obviously be Transylvanian, also known as Romanian red.
Well, that makes sense.
But there's music garlic from Italy, which seems appropriate.
Italy's
Tasmanian purple, the beautiful violet color. Vietnamese red. There's lots of it. Lots of different kinds.
Yeah. And for here, obviously we were researching what grows the best in our soil and in our climate. And that was the hardneck German. And obviously I felt a lot of affinity with that, which was very fun. But, you plant in the fall and you harvest in the spring, the scapes. We're going to talk a little bit about scapes. And then your bulbs are ready in early summer.
Some people don't know is that you actually get 2 harvests out of a garlic.
I didn't know it. The first year that we grew them, I was completely caught off guard. And Also, again, really excited to learn about a garlic scape.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what the hell scape is.
What is that?
I had no idea. You know, we had a neighbor that said, "Oh, looks like it's time to harvest your scapes." I was like, "What?"
Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
What does that mean?
It was an early bit.
Yeah, and sure enough, I went out to the patch, and all of these curlicues were coming out. And again, experienced gardeners, you know exactly what this looks like. But if you don't, it is a bright green stem that's coming out of the top of the garlic leaves, and it curls over when it's really ready, and it has a little point on the end where the flower is going to grow if it continues to grow, and you nip that and then you make delicious things.
Yeah, I mean, essentially the scape is the flower stalk.
That's right.
Of hardneck garlic, and it stores all the energy for next year. So the trick is, the reason why you cut it is because if you don't trim it down, then all of the bulbs, which is what we eat a lot of, they're very small. They do not get big.
Right. And it is it's fun. It's a little bit of a search mission to find the scapes, because you've got all these beautiful leaves that are growing and stems, and sometimes you miss one. And when you do, and when you're going to pull it and you see it's a flower, you really can notice the difference in the size of the bulb. For those that, fortunately, I think we only had 2 this year that we missed.
We were very upset about those 2. Because then you're like, oh, man. And sure enough, when we went to actually pull the garlic out of the ground, those 2
much smaller.
Were much, much smaller. I mean, that's by pruning the scapes and by using them and then ultimately eating them, you are making better garlic. You're just really making sure that all of the energy from the plant, all that photosynthesis, all of the energy goes down into making the bulbs bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah.
And for us, it's, it hasn't been an exact science of when to clip that scape, but, about 6 to 12 inches is a rule. I have air quotes going for those.
It is a podcast. They will not be able to see those.
Sorry, I used air quotes. 6 to 12 inches, so that you have a meaningful garlic scape harvest that you can use in recipes. You just don't want to let that flower open.
Yeah. Because at that point, really, the garlic bulbs down on the base they're just not going to be as flavorful.
You can use the entire scape for cooking. We have found that the flower bulb part's not quite our favorite. Love to hear recipes or ideas from other people to change our minds. Please send them in.
Change my mind.
But, there's a lot you can do with that delicious, tender green part of the scape. And it's the flavors. It's a little bit like an onion, like a scallion, and garlic. A marriage.
It's a merger.
It's a merger. It's a flavor merger.
It's a flavor explosion. It's one of those things that when we first came here to Stonebrook and we started putting stuff in the yard, it was one of those very surprising moments for me. And there's been a couple of those with different things that we'll talk about that, like nasturtium flowers or ground cherries, just flavors that I had never experienced. And
violets.
Yeah, violets. Just that we are big foodies, and we've always, strived to find the most unique flavors out there and go to restaurants that are really pioneering new ways to use food. But man, anything right out of your yard, it's so good. And then you've got these scapes, and it's just such a unique, different flavor.
Well, yeah. And then, we reached out to our friends in the community, and they're like, oh yeah, scapes. They knew all about it.
Yeah.
They had all the answers for us. It was, oh yeah, slice them thin and saute them like a green onion, or wrap the entire scape, because it naturally starts to form a circle.
It's a curly circle.
It's a curly, like wrap it up, dip it in some batter and fry it like an onion ring.
Scape onion rings.
Amazing.
It's pretty cool.
Amazing.
It's pretty good.
And then the one that became sort of my favorite, I think you love too, is making a scape pesto.
The scape pesto
Garlic scape pesto. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty excellent.
Incredible.
I mean, we've never found pasta that was like, ugh, we won't eat this pasta.
There isn't a pasta. I don't like chickpea pasta even. I'll get it down.
Yeah, that's probably the far end.
Yeah. One
neighbor told us to use it kind of with basil.
Yes.
And then pine nuts and all the traditional olive oil and Parmigiano Reggiano. There's another accent. Equally as good as the last one.
Coming. They said, make it like you do a pesto. So while the garlic scapes are lighter in flavor than the actual garlic bulbs themselves, they definitely are, as our daughter used to say when she was little, sizey.
Instead of spicy. Yes. She would always say sizey.
Sizey. And they do pack a punch, and they can be overpowering. So originally
they're very strong sometimes.
They're very strong. So originally I tried blanching them. But then we kind of settled on the fact that we like the spiciness of it. And we came up with our own garlic scape pesto recipe, and super easy. So about a cup of the blanched scapes, if you choose to do that way, or unblanched scapes, are going to go into the food processor. You're going to pulse for about 30 seconds, then add in a half cup of either raw pine nuts or walnuts or
we've
cashews.
done them with both. We've done them with both.
That last version I made with cashews
That was
delicious.
really good. That was excellent. So I recommend cashews.
Yeah. So do a quarter cup of cashews, and you're going to do about an extra 30 seconds. Of course, scrape down the bowl to capture all the good stuff that's sticking to the sides. And then you're going to follow by putting in a half cup of extra virgin olive oil.
And get the good stuff. I think that's
stuff.
It's so funny because a lot of people think I'll just get whatever. All of the olive oils are the same. They really aren't.
No.
You really do have to find a quality, good, preferably Italian olive oil. There's a lot of blends out there. My preference, I think your preference, is to really just try to go for a true Italian, full 100% Italian extra virgin.
So put a half of a cup of that really good extra virgin olive oil in, and you're going to process everything together for about another 15 seconds. You will learn with me, I am very much by feel cook.
She is. It's true. I'm one that will follow a recipe. I have all the measuring cups out, which is kind of, sort of funny.
I think every dish in the kitchen.
And every dish. That's where I was going with this.
Yes.
My kitchen, essentially, when I'm finished, looks like an entire restaurant of people have been served.
That is very true.
And I'm making one plate of food.
Yes.
It's true.
And
Ellen is much more by feel.
Yes, so much more by feel, and I clean up as I go along. She does,
yeah, you do. You 100%. You
can
clean as you go.
Can anyone relate to this?
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this.
Right.
Somebody is the cook and somebody is the dish cleaner upper person.
Yeah.
And those two people get married.
Okay, to get back to the recipe, to finish this delicious pesto, you're going to add a quarter cup of the Parmigiano Reggiano.
Yeah,
he always does this to
accents.
Me. And you're going to pulse. Now again, if you want more than a quarter cup, I'm not judging. I think you add.
Totally should.
I'm always about the extra cheese.
Cheese is life. Go for it. Make it happen.
Cheese and pasta, bread, carbs. You sense the theme. Life. Until the ingredients are combined. And then you're going to complete with putting in another quarter cup of the basil leaves and the juice of a lemon. Lemon's optional. I like the lemon.
I think it really helps to add some flavor to it.
It's delicious. And salt. Add a little pepper to taste and serve. Just put a nice coating of olive oil on top and store it in the fridge. It can last for...
That's if it actually makes it to the fridge.
It's a very good point.
Because not only have we found that we love it on pasta and large amounts of that, we will actually just go straight into it with a cracker.
Oh, it is so good. It's like a dip or a spread.
We have made these rosemary crackers from the rosemary that we grow, and... they're very simple to make, very easy, but you just scoop them up and you put them in your mouth. It's
like
perfect.
Just this herbaceous bite, you know, with obviously, with the basil and the scapes and then the rosemary. And then, just put a little extra of that cheese on top again, just a little sprinkle, You're
building a lot of layers of flavor on something that is pretty standard and traditional that everybody knows, but you're putting this big twist on it. And I think that's a lot of what we're going to talk about on Yard to Table is finding simple dishes that you can elevate and impress your friends and family. All with the stuff that you're growing.
Absolutely.
Because what's more fun than that, really?
Well, and it's speaking of friends and family, it's always sad because your parents, my in-laws, they're usually traveling. They teach a summer program in Italy. It's where we get the delicious cheese. Sometimes they bring that back for
cheese.
us.
They're cheese smugglers.
Don't say anything.
They will bring it back in their suitcase.
Which we are very grateful for. But they teach a summer program in Italy every year, and they miss garlic scape harvesting season every year. And so we cut them up, and an easy way to save that so that you have it for our friends that maybe missed that time, or you can enjoy it later in the season is, you process the scapes and the olive oil together and you freeze them. You can use an ice cube tray and just put it in little sections in the ice cube tray, or put it in a bag or a glass container in your freezer, and you got it all year.
And the great thing about scapes is that they're there's not one thing to do.
No.
There's so many different.
You can use it like you use garlic or an onion.
100%. You can put it on salad. You can make jelly out of it for a very peppery kind of savory jelly for cheeses. There's 1,000 different things that you can do with garlic.
And we were just looking at garlic scape salt.
Yeah. Taking essentially your garlic scapes, grinding them in the food processor, putting them into the oven with a lot of salt. Essentially, it's a 2-to-1 ratio of garlic scape to salt. Don't use table salt.
No table salt.
Because that has iodine in it, and really go for a good kosher salt.
Always get the good stuff.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a theme. That is the theme. Always get the good stuff. And then put it in the oven if you have at a super low level. If you have a dehydrator function on your oven, you can use that one, or you just put it down to the lowest level and then you just let it cook until the salt and the scapes are crunchy and sort of create almost like a cake. Take that, break it back up again, put it back into the food processor, grind it down, and if you store it in an airtight container, it can last for a year, 2 years, and it is the spicy, unique flavor of the garlic scape plus salt. You can use it in pretty much everything.
All right, so garlic scapes, amazing.
Scapes are, so all of this time, we haven't even been talking about garlic.
I know.
Bulbs, we've been talking about the top part, just the scape.
And then you wait a few more weeks, maybe a month. I mean, seasons are very temperamental these days. It is
100% science fiction. So whenever it's right to harvest the garlic for you,
yes,
in your zone,
and usually you're looking to see that all the leaves on the bottom are yellow, and that you're at that place, and pull out a bulb, test it, see. For us, it's been pretty much the first week of July.
Consistently,
here
it's
in
about
Connecticut
the first week.
in 7A. Has been our week to harvest, but it's all depends, microclimates and things like that. Nothing beats good old getting your fingers in there and checking on things
dirty
yourself and figuring it out. So, and then I actually think like garlic bulb harvesting is so much fun. It is so satisfying.
It's almost like popping bubble wrap.
Yeah.
You have this same.
Yes.
Ellen gets very, very excited.
I do.
For pulling garlic.
I do. It's just, it has a beginning and a middle and an end. And it is so, and it is, you feel so good, first of all, like you do with anything that you grow. To take something out of the garden that you have created is just such a feeling of accomplishment. And then, to harvest the garlic and see that it was successful and it looks gorgeous and smells so good. It's just it's endorphin central for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm on the happy train.
And once you've got it out, it's still not the end.
No, I mean, you can use it right away. So obviously we were talking a little bit about fresh garlic and basil, and we did that immediately this year, just like we always do. You get it out and you make something quickly and you keep some fresh garlic. But then for it to last, you want to cure it. So for us, we have, we lay everything out with the hard nut garlic. Your stems are very hard, so you can't do the braiding, but you can tie them in bunches and you can hang them. I try to make sure that the bulbs aren't touching each other. I kind of stagger them a little bit when I hang them. And for us, we're really very low maintenance, old school here. We have so many old screens and old screen doors from around our property because our house is almost 100 years old, and that we just put screens up in our covered porch area. And we lay them out. I turn them once a week and you cure them for about 3 weeks. And then you're ready to cut and store them.
Yeah. And I think the important part for us is that we do have the ability to store them not in the sun.
Yes.
Not in the rain.
You have to keep them away from direct sun. That's really important. Direct sun and moisture. Because
that's where your rot's going to set in, right? So these are in the shade, this little breezeway that we have next to the garden, luckily. It always gets a little bit of a breeze, even on a very hot day. So they're curing, they're slowly drying out. And that's really what you want, because you want that protective coating around in those first couple of skins of the garlic. We did have a couple of garlic murders, unfortunately, when we were harvesting. More of those came from me than they did from you.
I want that noted for the record.
It is already noted.
Now it's official.
It's in the record, my permanent record.
Yes, your spade made connections.
My spade made a connection, unfortunately, and my pulling was a little too vigorous, and the top stalk just came right off.
And I may have ribbed you a little bit for that, but that's important to note.
May have.
Oh, I definitely did.
Oh, yeah.
But that's important to know because when you are harvesting, the best method that I found, that we have found, is that you get the spade and loosen the dirt up around the bulb, and then you can pull from the top. The stalks are very sturdy, but depending on your soil and the texture of your soil, we have done a whole project on doing our beds and adding in new soil, but our previous soil was very clay, had a lot of clay.
Yeah. So it would retain a lot of moisture. So when
it was like getting them out of cement. So, compared to the year before, I think we lost a lot less.
Oh, we only lost, I think, 6.
Yeah.
And the great news is, you use that green garlic, as it's called, the uncured garlic, and you use that immediately in whatever dish you feel like.
Oh, darn.
Oh, no. We have to hurry up and use this garlic. Oh, shucks. Yeah, it's not a hardship. None of this is a hardship.
None of it's a hardship. But, the curing, if you do it correctly and you really have garlic for most of the year.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. And so once it's dry, you go through and you cut off all the tops. I brush off that first layer of skin.
And really it is a brushing. It's not a scrubbing.
Mm-mm.
You just want to get any cakes of dirt that are left on. You just lightly
when you go
get
to
them
eat
off.
it, you're going to do the deep clean.
Yeah. The bulbs are going to come out. You're going to open them up and de-skin them entirely, and that makes it much better.
That's right. But we also went very easy for our garlic storage, because you have to make sure that you put them in containers that get good airflow and that are going to be obviously stored in a cool and dry place. That's, as we all know, for those of us who can, or, store root vegetables, onions, garlic, potatoes, things like those, you have to make sure you're in a place that has good airflow and is cool.
And we did a pretty simple thing, I think, that almost everybody can do.
Totally.
Anybody with a drill can do it, essentially.
Yes.
I went to the local hardware store and I got a tile cutting bit for the drill. Pretty simple. Just put a little water on it.
First, I did a little research and said, honey, can you do this?
The honey-do list, the yard do list.
And amazingly, you can. That's what's so great.
And I did, and we had a great time doing it.
You did.
We just took a regular flower pot and the flower pot plate that goes underneath it.
Yeah, and terracotta.
Just simple terracotta.
And brand new. You don't want to reuse a flower pot that you may have had dirt in or anything like that. You want to get a brand new base and pot.
Right. And then just drill a bunch of holes all through the pot. Be careful.
And the lid.
And the lid. I was getting there. And the lid on top.
Sorry. Keep going.
So you drill all these holes, and then you use the plate, invert it as a lid. It'll sit right in the top of the flower pot. So then you have a fully aerated pot. You can buy these pots. They're, all over the internet. You can get ceramicists to make them and do them, and they work. It's fine. But you can also do this and get a super cheap flower pot and just drill holes in it with a tile cutter.
And super easy. And, the nice part about it too is you can use it for so many different things. You can use it for shallot storage, onions. And, as far as labeling, I just get a white piece of chalk and I write the date and the name of the item that's in it. And that way we know what it is, which is super simple and easy.
I mean, our garlic almost lasted through the winter almost.
It did. Honestly, it was early spring.
Yeah, we were almost back into scape season by the time we had finished with our garlic. And in addition to doing all of the normal preservation for the actual garlic itself, there's always a great time just cut that top of the garlic off, put it on a pan. Put a bunch of them on the pan, throw olive oil. I know you do. Olive oil, salt, just toss them in, roast them up. They become very pliable, almost like a jam-like consistency at that point in time. Squeeze them out, squeeze all those beautiful garlic pieces out. Get some reusable bags that are like snack bags, that kind of a thing. And then flatten them out. Just put that paste right in there, flatten them out, throw them in your freezer. then you can just snap off little pieces as you need it for whatever cooking you're doing.
You forgot the most important part.
Something about eating more garlic.
Exactly. So you take some of that delicious roasted garlic and you put it on a delicious slice of bread and then you eat it.
Before you freeze it.
That's correct.
Understood.
Because there is no way.
I thought that was sort of assumed that we were doing that.
Well, for us, naturally. Because there's no way you're not going to eat that delicious fresh roasted garlic before you put it away.
That's true.
But it is another great way to store it.
And there's lots, you can even take the unroasted garlic and do that same thing. You can put that in the food processor and you can find a way, whatever works for you, to store it in the freezer and have that fresh garlic available as well.
And I think the other cool part about growing your own garlic is it's self-sustaining. So before you eat it, process it, roast it, you're going to pick out your top, most beautiful, largest garlic bulbs that you've grown. And you're going to reuse those to plant for next year.
We just saved them.
Yeah. And then come fall, you plant them. You just break them apart. You put the cloves in one at a time. And I mean, we got out of that, what was the math? So it was 30 bulbs and we got how many plants?
About 180 garlic plants from those 30.
Yes.
And they were all bigger this year than they were last year.
Right.
And this is part of the fun of working in your yard. You're sort of controlling this agriculture that you're building.
That's right.
So every year your garlic's going to get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger because you're essentially doing selective evolution of your own garlic.
That's right. Yes. Just like I'm doing with the zinnias. Yeah. But that's another podcast.
That's a different episode. But that's part of it is that when you pull these larger bulbs, and we're pulling the biggest ones we can find, it's just making that next year's harvest that much bigger from each individual bulb.
That's right. It is a wonderful feeling to know that you have created this cycle of growth. And when we have people come over and sit at the table and we're serving our garlic spread and the pesto and making all the dishes that we make with garlic, because it is one of our absolute go-tos.
Like most people on the planet Earth.
It's
for the last 7,000 years, apparently.
It's so good. It's satisfying. It's so satisfying to know that this is something that you've put so much heart and energy into, and you're sharing it with people. I love that feeling.
I think also it's not that hard. It's not like something you need to do endless maintenance on. That's the fun part. You're selecting these 30 bulbs to put in and back into the ground again.
If you're thinking about I've never grown anything before, and you think, what? Garlic's easy? It is so easy. It really doesn't require a ton of maintenance.
No. You have to water it. You have to watch out for certain signs of rot. You can get nematodes and other things that, pests that can possibly attack it. But that's partially why we grow the German hardneck, is because it is very hardy. It's very cold resistant. Not all of the different varieties of garlic are as cold resistant. Our zone did change from 7 to 7A. So we're a little bit warmer than we once were here in Connecticut, in Western Connecticut. But that's, I think, one of the great parts about garlic is you really do have a pretty wide range of mess up before you kill it off.
So just some basics with planting garlic. You want to plant them in the late fall or early winter.
That sounds easy.
6 weeks before the ground freezes. Good luck figuring that out. So none of this is an exact science. I love when people say that. In milder areas, you can plant in January and February. That's not us in New England. But you want to make sure the soil has plenty of compost. And that's your basis for fertilizing your garlic, because it really is very easy to grow. That gives you good water retention and good drainage if you're using good soil and good compost. It is important, if you're going to be planting in fall and you're looking to harvest in early summer, that you have another fertilization moment, which is in like May, so early spring. It's a fertilizer that's high in nitrogen because they love that, but it's important not to use that after that early spring moment, because that's when they're really doing their growing, and anything else that you put in there can interrupt with the growing. So really,
it's only
planting,
one note.
Then you get some delicious scapes. Then you harvest your bulbs, and then you do it again.
What's better than that?
I think it's amazing.
think about this. Tomatoes from your yard, garlic from your yard, basil from your yard, and a very good bread, which if you're growing wheat, could also come from your yard. We are not currently growing wheat in our yard.
No, not currently.
But
never say never.
Just those things together.
Oh.
The simple ingredients, elevated and from your own backyard. What's better? Nothing.
Nothing is better than that.
That's true.
If you want to try any of the recipes that we talked about today or look at our recommendations for growing garlic, then take a look at our podcast show notes.
And if you want to find out what's going on today, right in our backyard at Stonebrook, follow us on Instagram at Stonebrook House.
Well, it's been a lot of fun talking about garlic.
Garlic is a great topic.
I'm sure there's a lot more we could say about garlic.
I heard that you could repair glass with garlic. I have no idea where I heard that.
Why didn't you bring that up earlier?
That would have been a much better thing to bring up earlier.
All right, we're saving that for a future episode as well. But thanks for being with us and having a seat at our table.
Yard to Table is a production of Macrocosm Entertainment. Don't forget to rate us and subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts. And for tips and more information, follow us on Instagram at Stonebrook House.